Hey legal legend, welcome to Legal Lightbulbs, where we uncover bright ideas to power small in-house legal teams. I'm Verity White, the lucky lawyer who gets to chat with some of the smartest minds in the in-house legal world to help legal legends like you have a big impact with a small legal team. Welcome to the Legal Lightbulbs podcast. Very excited about today's episode because we're going to be talking all about contracts with someone who is one of the best in the biz, in my and many other people's opinion. Universities are known for long and complicated contracts and policies, but what if they weren't? Today I'm joined by Deb Hook from the University of Sydney, who's head of legal ops there. We're going to be talking about fast track contracts, a radical simplification program that's not only helping the University of Sydney, but is really causing some ripples of change globally, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about what happens when you redesign contracts. So we are going to cover a lot of ground today. We're going to be talking about what the heck fast track contracts are, why you need one, and just some of the leadership that you need to run a program like this and to put it on at scale, and also talking about culture of change as well, because it's so impactful whenever we're doing this. And I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on it. Welcome so much, Deb.
Verity, thank you so much for having me. As I was saying, it's my first ever podcast, so I feel very lucky to be doing it with you and on a topic that is so close to my heart.
Oh my goodness, I am outraged. I was saying before, I'm outraged that Deb has not been on any podcasts before, because she is an absolute national treasure of the Australian legal industries and legal ops globally. Absolutely honoured to have you on the podcast. So let's dig into fast track contracts. Tell us a little bit about fast track contracts. What was the problem you were trying to solve with the fast track contracts?
Yeah, so I guess we, as you say, you have characterized universities correctly in that we have a lot of really complex contracts, and we're not known for being particularly fast when it comes to contracting. In fact, some of our partners think we are notoriously slow when it comes to contracting. And that's a multifaceted beast. It's part resourcing, it's part the complexity of what we do as an organization, but it was also part that we hadn't fully optimized the way we could approach contracting by simplifying it and then streamlining it through automation. So the idea of fast track contracts wasn't to solve the whole of contracting, it was to take out the bottom 20% of our lowest risk, highest volume contracts and radically simplify their terms so that they were easy to understand and pretty much get rid of the need to negotiate by making them extremely fair. And then use the latest in technology to make a fully automated experience that was like the Uber of contracting. So it actually became a simple and joyful experience to contract at the university. So that was the philosophy that led to the Fast Track Contracts program at the University of Sydney.
Oh my gosh, so much to unpack there. I love that. And let's go back to how you identified the ones that you wanted to automate and simplify, because it was like one sentence there, but I'm sure it took a little bit more time and energy to identify what are the the high volume, lower risk. And how did you make that? Is that a Deb call, or who's making that decision, or as a team or as an organization?
Both. So I would say in the beginning, it was a little bit of a Deb decision. We went out on a limb with it, I think. So we decided we would pilot it and be brave and just we thought would work, and then get like radical feedback on that to refine it. And if people loved it, we said we would scale it, but we were also willing to throw it in the bin if nobody liked it. My background as a lawyer is in intellectual property, commercial, and research. So I know those contracts really well. And I had been working in that space for 15 years or something. So I knew back to front organically which contracts lent themselves most to what is essentially a no negotiation contract. So we didn't want any negotiation to happen on the legal terms, only to the front page of the contract and the schedule. So if you look at your sandwich methodology there, we didn't want the legal terms in the middle of the sandwich to change at all. And so we knew there were more complex contracts where that wouldn't be possible because you would need options of different clauses. And we also knew that there would be some contracts where the other party was less likely to have a lawyer, for example, and by making it fair and simple for them, it would be much more likely that they would accept it rather than not want a contract because it was too tricky for them. So a lot of our smaller not-for-profit organizations, small to medium enterprises. We knew it would be a great partner experience for them as much as it was an internal improvement experience for us. So less so the industry engagements where they tend to be more bespoke and higher risk. So that's how we went about it. We then had to get it funded, Verity.
Okay.
And so we had no funding for this, obviously. So it was hustle street for me to go out and see who might be willing to invest in doing this. And so we were able to partner with the university's research portfolio. So they're a portfolio here that process a high volume of research contracts. We have a decentralized model at the university where we have a relatively smaller legal team who do the high complexity work. And then we have contracts teams at various divisions who use the templates and toolkits that we provide to process our BAU contracts. So the research contracts team is one of those, and they were dealing with a very high volume of work. And they knew, because I had been working as a lawyer with them for some time, that we could partner on this together. So we started with 6 research contracts, which have now been live for 10 months, believe it or not, 400 processed so far this year.
Amazing.
And based on the experience of people loving those, we were able to get additional funding from additional areas of the university to do their contracts. So we should have about 20 live by the end of this year now. So it's growing, half by what's sensible and half by who's willing to fund it.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. And so did you have to shop around for a little while, or you already had that relationship with the research team? So they were easy stakeholders to get on board, or were they a bit tentative?
No, it was pretty low risk from their perspective because we prototyped it first. As Verity, I'm a mad fan of the design thinking process. We, on the legal team's dime, essentially just meet on the tools, doing the drafting as well as the automating, mocked up what one could look like. So we did one ourselves, and when we were able to demo that, take it out and get feedback from their stakeholders, they could see this was like a bargain from their perspective because it's solving their problem. It wasn't solving a legal team problem, it was solving a contracts team problem. And because they had already had one, they knew what they were getting. So it was a pretty easy sell. And then after that, it's very unusual, but people came knocking at the door. We've had to turn away funds because we just don't have the time to do it. I think one of the challenges is making sure that we are servicing the best interests of the university and making sure we are tackling our most strategically aligned contracts, making sure we're picking ones not just because someone happens to have some spare cash, but because it's the right thing to do by the institution. And I think that's where we're at now. This has been lovely getting all these bits of funds from people, but there are some key contracts we think are in the best interests of the university, like our student experience or our teaching to do, and that because we've got the stats on the number processed and the time saved from the ones that we've done to date, it's giving us a greater chance of putting in a business case to get that funded as an actual function rather than beg borrowing and stealing to get these things up.
Well, it's a great position to be in where you are getting money thrown at you and you're being very purpose-focused.
Yeah, no, but we've definitely had more demand than we have been able to, which is nice. And I see that was one of our KPIs. So we wanted to reduce the Flesch Kincaid grade of our contracts so that they would be 10 level English. I'm speaking to the converted here, Verity, but I feel very strongly about that. And then we wanted to get them down to 0 negotiation. We wanted to see a certain number processed a year. So we like to do at least 50 contracts processed of each type that we automate to make sure we get appropriate ROI within a certain amount of time. And then one of our KPIs was there's more demand than we can meet, which suggests that the experience of using them is good and people are willing to fund it.
This is so great. And I think it's almost a transformation project 101 here. Get the statistics that you want to update. We've got the reading grade level, which is obviously there's other factors that go into reading grade and readability, but it's a good little finger in the air test of whether or not something's heading in the right direction from a readability perspective. And it's so easy to measure just within Microsoft Word or whatever you're measuring the number that are being done. So the 50, is that to make sure that you're not automating something that kind of barely ever gets automated, or
Absolutely. And it's a guesstimate because it does depend on the contract. Some have been extremely hard to automate, not because the contracts are difficult, but because the way they're processed within the university or the number of different types of people who can that contract add a lot of complexity to the process. So it was in the law of averages, but yeah, we said, look, we're not going to get out of bed for anything that won't do at least 50 of them a year. And that's because it looks so simple. When you use it, it's so simple, it looks really easy and glossy, but behind the scenes, it's actually a lot of work to get those done. And we needed to manage expectations mostly of a lot of people being like, oh my God, I would love this if I could have it for every single one of my contracts. And that just doesn't add up. So we calculated how long it, like we would need about 50 of a contract to be processed to have the same number of hours that it took to automate that contract. And so that would give us an ROI after 1 year. So we could actually make that lower, I think, because year on year it would start to add up. But we're still, with only 20 automated, there's still a long way to go with the volume of contracts that are signed at the university for a lot more to be automated that require 50 a year.
And I find it interesting when you do automate that then a few extras sometimes come out of the woodwork, right? With that latent demand for legal services where maybe there was 50 that were getting signed last year and now that it's automated, suddenly there's 75 or 100 because people can actually find it and automate it.
Very eye-opening. So we thought by making compliance easy, we would get an uplift in compliance. It's certainly a lot more than I expected.
Yes.
And also, I think what's remarkable to me is when you work in the legal team for a very long time, you work on the very strategic end of contracting, and it's been quite eye-opening for the lawyers who have been involved in drafting these contracts in their area of specialty and working with client groups to automate them, just how we have potentially neglected the day-to-day bread and butter of our business, who were still using, in some cases, law firm templates that had been drafted 15 or 20 years ago that were very one-sided, very difficult to read. And so I think while we're all keen to be very strategic partners, you can actually scupper your business a lot if you're not paying the appropriate attention just to the day-to-day work. And what was most interesting, and a few people who've been involved in the project have observed this, how much of our reputation as a legal team inside the business is depends on that bread and butter work. So very few people see the amazing stretch strategy stuff where we're working around the clock on it, and you get a lot of kudos from very senior members of staff, but the bulk of stakeholders just want to buy that thing or sign that contract for confidentiality. And when the face of legal looks like red tape, it's not the best. So it's been eye-opening for us as a team.
Yeah, that's such a great insight. I feel like, a lot of lawyers do talk about, I want to focus on the high level strategic things, but those just making people's lives easier day to day. And it's that everyday justice, everyday business justice, giving access to making things easier.
That's the bread and butter of what makes money or keeps an organization like ours, which isn't about money, but is about research and teaching. If people can't do the basics of their job or it's held up for months on end because of a contract, to the business of that is quite remarkable. Yeah, it certainly changed my mind about where we should be focusing our time as a legal team.
And so now that there's a kind of a tech layer wrapped around those contracts, and is there also kind of that maintenance now? I think you were talking about maybe some templates were a few years old. Is that kind of built into the process now that everything gets reviewed?
It is. So we're big on knowledge management in our team more generally. We have a substantial AI readiness program around getting our knowledge ready to get the most out of AI as and when the technology pieces come through. So we have a knowledge register. People will have ownership of each item of knowledge. And we have a lot of self-help guides and things on our intranet that need to be maintained. So this is just one other thing. In terms of in terms of the clauses and things that need to be updated for whatever the new unfair contracts regime or whatever it is that's coming out. The technology, I was really worried about the maintenance of the technology, that it would be really buggy and there'd be a lot of calls. We haven't had any of those problems. Occasionally it goes down a bit, or there's one person who doesn't read the instruction in one little bit and needs a bit of help, but it's not nearly as much as I was concerned it would be. One of the things that has happened, though, is for contracts where there isn't a contracts team available to support them. So, for example, we've done a material transfer agreement. So you can send your mouse hair samples across to another university for genetic biome, whatever it is.
Oh, good. We need to be able to do that. Yes.
So they can do that. There's one signatory at the university who signs those, and if he's not here, there's another person. It's very easy to automate that process. There's a team who can do all, because nothing is fully automated. There's always a human check at the last bit for like national security purposes and some other high-level compliance stuff. But for some of our contracts, there was no such team. So we just a general confidentiality agreement ended up being one of our trickiest ones to do because there's no support team. There's 25 different people across the business that can review and sign those, and they all have different processes for how things should come to them for review and signature. So we had to work through with those 25 different areas to have one consistent experience for the end user, regardless of who the signatory was. And they have more questions because it's like, can I use this contract for that? By the way, can I resend it to this person? So it's the support around the contracting less than the technology that I have been a bit mindful of. And the core to fast track contracts is it's not a computer says no process. So it's automated, so it's absolutely seamless and shouldn't be a problem. But if you need to talk to a human, you can. And we've always said that because people hate the computer says no, you can go around and serve it. Sometimes you just need to talk to a human. But we had no support team in the legal team to be able to do that sort of really low level triage stuff. So we had to buy a mobile phone and carry it around in case like the number called, because we'd only have a few where there might be that number.
Gosh, I hope it was red. I hope it was like an old school red phone or something.
No, it never rings. That's
called that's one
good call, but you need to have the number there so people feel like they haven't been abandoned. Like a lot of it is about the feel of it. But we've had to sort of purpose technologists who are doing the building with support people who can also respond to basic queries on a Teams chat if need be. It's definitely not set and forget, but it hasn't been very much work after launch.
So good. Oh, that's really great. And one of the things that I think is amazing about this project is that you decided to make the fast track contracts available to others. So why was that kind of important for you? Was that kind of part of the aims of the university, or how did that approach come about?
I think it's probably just frustration at the legal sector. It's hard. I think I feel like we repeat the wheel a lot. The University of Sydney is a not-for-profit organisation. It runs as a charity, and our mission is to conduct world-class research, provide world-class teaching, and a transformational student experience. So none of those are about money. And so it seemed that if I was going to do all of this work to simplify our contracts, why wouldn't we provide those to other universities was the initial thinking. But then I was like, not going to stop anyone using them really. So we put a Creative Commons 0 license on it. And we have, as we finalise them, within some limits. So there's some competition law issues around some contracts where we have to just be careful we're not accidentally being a cartel. But with that aside, we've been able to load those contracts up on some shared repositories that university lawyers have. And I've been lucky, although this is my first podcast, I've been lucky to go and talk about this a few times in a few forums and been able to share those resources with other teams. So I really hope it just rubs off, because the sector is undergoing a massive transformational change where there is more work than ever and all of our staff are burning out. I repeat, we should just share and share. So I'm hoping that rubs off, but also there's a vested interest providing these templates to other universities because we would accept the terms roles reversed. So it's a lot less work for us if they use templates that we're familiar with. It's hopefully karma will come back around eventually and reduce our workload on the other side too.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach, especially if you're prepared to accept them. And we'll share some of the links to where people can have a look at them and access them. It's one of the great things about sharing templates. Obviously, everyone needs to read them themselves and make sure it's the right template and all of that jazz.
Disclaimer.
A little bit of disclaimer for you there, Deb. Yeah. but that is just good common sense. But I think it's great where you put that leadership position out there and then that kind of can
It's interesting. I
become.
didn't think of it as a leadership position at the time. It was more just like the decent thing to do, but that's lovely if that's how it's received.
I
But,
definitely think it's a leadership, it's a power move, right? You're just
oh,
like,
wow, there you
boom,
go.
look what we've done. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it shows real confidence. I always believe that clear contracts show a really confident business, a really confident organization that has done the clever things behind the scenes to
I think that's
understand.
it. Like you
Yeah.
need to really know what you're doing. To get something really clear and really simple, you need to really know your stuff. And so I find that with just lawyers in general, like the more succinct and direct people are, generally it's because they've done all the hard thinking and they're able to distill it into simple concepts. So I
Yeah.
think there's that our academics are here because they're doing world-changing research. That's how we started it. So you think of universities as places where lawyers go to become rich or something. Not the case. Like about 40% of our business is research intensive work. So we're sending robots to space. We're conducting international clinical trials on COVID during COVID. Like it's real public good. The kind of research that is not profitable, but is good for humanity is what's done here. And so our people there's no concerns around profitability or competition. So when I'm able to go out to people and say, use our fast track contracts, they'll make your lives easier. But I point out the license terms at the bottom and say, we're giving these to other universities. So like it'll help public research in general. Like our people love us for that. I think it's a joy of being able to work at a not-for-profit institution. You can do that sort of stuff.
I think it's nice to have, you're probably super proud of the people sending the mouse hairs somewhere or robots to space,
You
and
wouldn't
they're
do that.
super proud of you too. They'd be super proud of you as well. Like, I think that's great that in an organization to have that care and respect for all parts of the business or
I'm so
organization.
glad you said that because I do think I think people a lot of the time when they think about automation or contracting, it's like, how many hours are we saving? What's the return on investment? And that's not what this project was ever about. It has been one of the natural consequences of it, but it was about experience. So the experience of contracting to be a pleasant, fast, and simple one to enable what our organization wanted to do. And so I think that's the key measure is that it's easy and almost delightful to contract.
Yes,
The
that's what we
feedback,
want.
we don't have to be the people holding things up. We can be strategic partners and enablers of what people want to do.
And I think the problem is because we have to measure things. We want to be able to show the impact. I've worked on projects where I'm like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what your return on investment is for working with me. And they're like, we just want the relationship to improve. And I'm like, okay, we can measure it on NPS or
Oh yeah,
like
that's a good one.
before and after ratings and things like that. But I guess for your purposes, just getting that feedback, are you doing surveys afterwards or is it just like smiles in the corridor or
Look, so there's a range of things. I think the most important to me is just radical candor, like having good, trusted relationships with people and constantly being like, I'm happy to throw this in the bin if you don't like it. But
yeah.
we haven't done active surveys because I'm afraid the legal team we over survey a little bit
Okay.
too much already. We haven't.
It seems a bit needy, doesn't it? Did you like this? Did you like this? Did you like this? Would you recommend me to a friend?
So we do an annual stakeholder survey, and fast track contracts was called out multiple times in the free text. And we
So
also
good.
have some key questions about, do you think the legal team is cutting red tape? Are we innovative? And so you can see the data more broadly. In terms of fast track contracts, one thing I wanted and we haven't managed to get is just a thumbs up or thumbs down button for when people complete it, which I think would be probably the best thing we could do. But at the moment, we have inbuilt feedback throughout the app. So we know people don't bother to send you a separate email unless it's wildly wild. And so we have a spot wherever you are, you can be like, leave us feedback. So we've had some feedback through that, but mostly people have genuinely written to us, like multiple people have been like, the work that you have done makes me feel like this old beast can really transform and this is a game changer for me, that sort of feedback, and nominated for awards and bits and pieces like that. So it's been a really feel-good project, which you don't always get to have as a lawyer. You're not always the most popular person in the room, but this one's like a nice feel-good project for those who to be.
Contract simplification is sometimes in the messy middle. It doesn't always feel that way. But yeah, the end result, once you've redesigned it, can be a feel-good project, definitely. So in terms of, let's pivot kind of to small in-house legal teams. And I know your team, your legal ops team is relatively small. The legal team is relatively small as well. But if someone didn't have a Deb Hook in their organization and they wanted to get something like a fast track contracts project off the ground, what would be your advice to a small in-house legal team?
My light goes off. I would say you can't, for the, me, Verity, I'm such a fan of things on a shoestring. Like my backpacking days have stuck with me. I think I'm like, you don't get any money. So the first thing to say is, sorry, let me get this light to go back on.
Yes, we want to be able to see you.
Okay, there we go. So the first thing is to do contract simplification and automation. You don't need anything other than Microsoft Word. Let's just break it down. The biggest and most beneficial part of this project has been simplifying the contracts, because if you do not need to spend time negotiating contracts and they don't need to come to legal at all, or they're simple enough for people to read without sending to their own lawyer on the other side, that means the time to get to yes is a lot quicker, and the time spent of your contracts officers or your lawyers is so much less. So that's just basic knowledge management. So I would challenge anyone. The biggest thing, automation sounds so glossy, but actually it's getting the templates right. That is 80% of the way there. From there, you just need to use Word macros to automate things. I do think people think you have to buy some super expensive technology to be able to get gains. People forget the basic tech you have in your organization already. So depending on the size of your organization, the first thing I would do is just go and talk to the IT team about what you already have. So a lot of people will have Power Automate, Power Apps, or even if they literally only have Microsoft Word, they have got macros that you can now get ChatGPT to write for you. So macros are like little save loop things that can automate all sorts of things. Get ChatGPT to write the code and shove it in the macros, and you have automation pretty easy. From there, we ended up going with a no-code technology. It's not a specific legal no-code technology. We just were like, what do we already have in the business? And we already had a workflow automation tool that the IT team use. And so we built it on that, and I just taught myself to use it. I can't code at all. What the challenge is scaling it. So I think I could have, as a senior lawyer, spent my entire time writing contracts and automating them. To scale them and do more than 6 a year, I needed a lawyer to be able to do the knowledge and a technologist to be able to do the technology. So it does become a little bit more expensive. I'm not sure if there are models out there where you can have the templates already written for you and that are automated. I suspect there are, but I think a lot of the places sell you that dream, but the reality is you get this software and then you have to do all that hard work yourself. So don't be fooled into thinking it's a technology project. It's a knowledge project.
Oh my goodness, so many gems in there. Step 1, simplify. Everyone can have a go at that now. And the macros now, I've got to say, Deb, I've done a fair bit of automating.
Those since 1985, but they're still there.
I know they're still there. Even like I've back in the day, automated things with like mail merge, but I've never actually cracked a macro. So that might be my little takeaway homework, to try and actually build a macros, because I've done very basic automations using all kinds of things, but never a macro. So I might have to get into that.
Yeah, there's other things in Word. There's plenty.
Oh, so many things. So many things that you can plug in with and build out. And I think you touched on it as well when you were talking about the process, like who signs the document. So of course, simplifying the contract itself, but then simplifying the process, or trying to organize that process.
That is where the painful part is, Verity.
Yes.
So being able to map out the process, and it's so much harder when it's not your area, like in between working on a contract where I know the subject matter of the contract and I know all the people, so I know what's going to work for them, versus a different contracting area and a different team. It's like chalk and cheese. So you really, the lived experience of being an expert in that field is something we try very hard to get into the team, to get actual people who are involved in the contract.
To get a champion, yeah.
It makes a big difference.
And with the tech, you used one that you had already. Was that something that you just sidled up to the IT team and was like, hey, what do you got there? Or you knew that they were working it?
So when I started in this role in legal ops, technology was probably the weaker side in the legal ops wheel of the 12 areas.
The core 12 competencies, yes.
Core 12. So I was like, I don't know about this. So I went and did a course at the College of Law in Legal Technology Fundamentals, which was the first time I'd heard about no-code technology. And then when I started in this gig, the best way to innovate is just to go and talk to all the other people and see what they're doing and be like, oh, they'll work for us. Like, you don't need it's not even innovation. It's just copying what other people do.
That is a type of innovation, right? It's called follow the leader innovation. Like, it's a thing. Yeah.
Good thing. So I just go and cherry pick all the things that I like. And so I saw a lot of the legal no-code solutions demoed at those conferences. And this is amazing because I can't code, but I love the experience technology can bring. And so this will empower me, because also when you work with the technology team, and I love my ICT colleagues, but they just don't get design. So you'll get something very functional, but it'll be so ugly or clunky or something. And so I was like, I really don't want to be that fussy customer could you increase the font size in lines 7 to 10 point Arial, which is where I was getting to with the T team. I wanted to be unleashed myself to be able to push the technology as far as I could. So we decided to go out to market for a no-code platform. And the first stage in going to market at the University of Sydney is to go and talk to our architecture team, who work out, how does this system fit in the rest of our systems? And do we have something that does this already? And they said, I think we have something that does this already. Yay. And so they said, why don't you try it with that? So it was very experimental. We spent 16 weeks in a bit of a sprint designing it all and talking to people, testing and building. And it did the job. So we didn't really ever have to go out and buy anything, which was lovely from my perspective, thinking about the low budget.
So good. Yes. And I agree. This is one of the reasons why I love small legal teams, because they just get it done. You just do get everything done. I think you said 16 weeks on testing the tech. And were you simplifying in the background there, or what?
Yeah, so it was concurrent. So it was a 16-week sprint led by me to prototype what we called a minimum lovable product. So we did it as a design
minimum lovable product
experience team. So I engaged our customer experience team. So these are service designers who do this for a job. And they went out and did a very systematic and thorough review of our current contracting processes. So we identified a range of stakeholders to talk to them in a very scientific way. So number of years at the university, type of role, background, disability. So like a really good scientific cross-section of users. And then they went out and interviewed them and observed them finding and completing contracts to pull out what they called the jobs to be done. And they find, I love this methodology, because they find within about 5 or 6 people, it's the same things over and over again. Yeah. So it's having half the university come into one of those workshops where you put post-it notes on boards around the room, and then everyone's expectations are sky high, and then nothing gets delivered because you run out of funding. This is like the opposite end of that, where you take a scientific approach and you keep interviewing people until, for a few people, there's nothing new coming through. Yeah. It's pretty much the same thing. And told us these are the jobs to be done, and then facilitated a workshop for us and a few lawyers from my team to say, how could we solve this? Money, big blue sky, whatever you wanted. We came up with all of these ideas, and then we mapped them out on a chart of expense and ease versus impact. And then we took things that were in the affordable and impactful category of that quadrant, that quadrant in the little page, and we said, this is our minimum lovable product. So based on that, we then prototyped. That told us that it's not the technology that's the problem. Technology could help be part of the solution, but it was basically, people said, the contracts are too complicated. I can't read them. I can't understand them. And they're not fair. They're too one-sided. And that's actually not how we approach partnerships at the university. They said the technology works against us. You log a ticket to have a contract reviewed. You have no idea where it's up to. It's a bit of a black box. They said it's too slow from end to end, takes way too long. And when you've got no visibility of where it's up to through that process, then you can't manage your partner stakeholder expectations, and it's embarrassing looking. And they wanted no new systems and less work. So I think that was really interesting. I think we're going through a sort of a technology consolidation phase where people hate new systems. They're like, I don't want to learn a new system. Why can't the existing systems just talk to each other? So one of the appeals of a no-code solution was it didn't do anything itself. It just made our existing systems talk to each other in a seamless way where we could track it. And we took those jobs to be done in those themes and prototype fast track contracts. And then we took it back out. So we took it back out to another cross section of people. So same demographics, but different people. And we got them to test and trial it. And then we had so independently. So we were never in the room in this.
Gosh.
This is what you do, radical Candace.
I know. Oh my goodness. No, but I just love this. It's like a masterclass in design thinking and kind of service design, because people, as you said, the simplicity of the contracting and everything that goes in behind it, all of that thought and effort is the reason why the project is so good.
Exactly. And by the time you launch it, you know it's going to be successful because you've literally tested it with people and then refined it. And we still do that. So we semi-regularly go out and be like, what more can we improve and what can we do? So you're always improving the product. And this is how products like Canva, like Uber, Atlassian, is how they were built and are disruptors. So I feel like the design thinking methodology, when applied to law, is an absolute no-brainer. I can't believe people don't do it more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree entirely. And if lawyers feel a bit uncomfortable with saying design thinking, you can think of it as the scientific method if that makes you feel better. Because even that's testing and learning. And
I am not a woo-woo person at all. I studied science law. It's never just like the most black and white thinker. And so it is a methodology of no failure, and it puts the client at the center of the service to design around it. I think the hard thing for lawyers is being perfectionists. So to actually go out there and put themselves on the line, and because people will come back to you and say, we don't like these things, I think that can be really confronting, and you have to realize that's a gift. If someone is willing to tell you what's not working, it's because you have a trusted relationship and they believe you might do something about it. And the other thing we try and get our lawyers to realize is you can't do it all and then take it out for feedback. You have to do enough that they can understand what it might look like, a prototype, but not so much that they're not willing to tell you where the problems are. If it looks too perfect when you take it to people, they'll just be like, oh, it looks lovely. You really have to do it in this way where people feel safe and that it's earlier. They can give you a decent steer. So lots of learning.
Oh my goodness. I could keep talking to you all day. We might have to do another session on helping lawyers to ask for feedback and receiving the feedback. But let's move on to the lightning round questions.
Oh,
are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite contract you've simplified so far?
Oh, it's lightning round. I would say our consulting agreement. So $250,000, being able to consult to industry really quickly is a game changer in getting university knowledge out into the real world.
Oh, so good. Biggest myth about legal ops?
I think people here think it's a really glossy and exciting role, and it can be, but much like automation, the end product looks all techie and beautiful, but it's really hard yards to get that to happen, and a lot of it is data-driven and very boring behind the scenes.
Okay. Is there a book or a podcast or a resource that's been inspiring you lately?
So I read this book after we made fast track contracts, and I was really annoyed because if I had read the book before I made fast track contracts, it was like a roadmap to how to do it. It's called Sign Here. I can't remember who the author is, but it's
Alex Hamilton.
Yes.
From Radiant Law.
Yes, so I just found that mindset exactly the same as mine, which is I think he has this like radical approach to contracting. So automation is only one tiny part of that, but very much around don't have maximal approaches, take reasonable approaches. It's for everybody. And I thought that was just like a dose of common sense. So that is something I give to a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, great. Such a good book. And he's actually going for, he wants to get like some service design. He's just like all the Toyota Cutaway, but on services. He's, yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Well,
A
I
really
do
great
think
book.
like someone needs to shake it up. Like it'll be very exciting, the person who unlocks all of that stuff and manages to change the tide in legal. I'll be cheering on the sidelines and do my part as well.
Fantastic. And finally, we like to finish asking everyone the same question. What's a legal light bulb or maybe a legal ops light bulb moment that you've had in your career that was a bit of a light bulb moment for you that might inspire others?
For me, the biggest learning in this role has been it's all about engagement and communications. So you can do the work, but if you don't go out there and sell the value of it, you just don't have the same cut through or the same impact. So what I like to say now is our job isn't to know the law, it's to communicate the law in a way that our business can use it to actually reduce compliance risk or make change. I think too many people can sit behind their keyboards and just give a perfect advice to somebody. How is that being applied? How is that being read? Are we actually having the impact we should be? Engagement and communications is very underdone, at least in-house legal teams.
I love that. What a way to finish. Thank you so much, Deb. Your first podcast, but I'm almost certain it will not be the last. I'm sure you'll be very busy once people know you're available for podcasts now.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for having me. It's really fun. And I love talking about this topic, so I could forever. Thank you for indulging me.
So lovely. Thanks again, Deb. That's it for this episode of Legal Lightbulbs. You'll find all the good stuff in the show notes, including links, resources, and guest details. If something sparked an idea for you, please share the episode with a colleague or connect with me, Verity White, on LinkedIn and let me know what resonated. It really helps me shape the show for other legal legends like you. Legal Lightbulbs is brought to you by Checklist Legal, a B Corp certified commercial law firm helping small legal teams in big brands modernise and transform the legal function to do business better. If you're thinking about kicking off your own transformation project, book in a chat today and let's make sure you kick it off on the right track. Until next time, happy contracting!